Afternoon, everyone. It's Jim. It's Amedeus, and it's Trade Day Tuesday in the NFL. It's the 31st of October, which means if you got a need, today's the day you got to get your guy because by midnight tonight it ain't gonna be there. So we'll see how it works out. Dace, how you doing, buddy? Anything of interest that perks your day today as we get started here?
Yeah, well, I'm doing good. Obviously, there was the big trade right before the show with Josh Dobbs going to the Vikings to replace Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals will be starting Clayton Tune this week, so that'll be a little exciting to see. Maybe finally something to cheer for as a Cardinals fan. But yeah, I definitely would have preferred to see Kyler Murray being the one shipped off and sent to a purple uniform.
So let me ask you this: um, Josh Dobbs, is he? Will he help take the place of Kirk Cousins? Is he a guy? Is he the kind of guy that can perk up a not so consistent offense there in Minnesota?
Well, obviously, I don't think he'll be anywhere near as good as Kirk Cousins is.
Right.
I don't think Josh Dobbs is great as a quarterback, but
Mm-hmm.
we have seen him done this before. Obviously, he
Mm-hmm.
has a history of just stepping in to a new system and
Mm-hmm.
performing well. Obviously, there was
Sure.
last year when the Titans kind of just signed him off and they needed the win for the playoffs, and everybody just counted them out because they signed this guy off the street basically. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, Josh Dobbs came in, almost won that game for them. So he's proven it before. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs on such a short week learning the new
Sure.
system. Assuming he's going to get to start this week for the Vikings.
Yeah. It's the Vikings have. I mean, he maybe does a Baker Mayfield and gets the playbook and reads it on the plane on the way to Minnesota. So we'll see how that works out from that standpoint. We've
He's gonna have a tough first start, Jim, just because
Yeah.
he's going up against my guy Taylor Heineke there, and this has got to be a little bit of a revenge spot for Taylor Heineke. You got to think
Mm-hmm.
just because Minnesota's the team that drafted him, so
Right.
this is his chance to get him right here with the
Mm-hmm.
Falcons again. Assuming he's getting the start because Ritter obviously cleared
Mm-hmm.
concussion protocol, but they
Right.
felt Arthur Smith wants to coach talk like, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
health of my players. I'm not going to throw him back in there, but he was good to go, and Taylor Heineke was playing a lot better, so he kept Heineke in there. We'll see what Arthur Smith does this week.
There's always that phantom injury that shows up at the last minute that can keep you out. Speaking of injuries, Baker Mayfield might have ended up with a bruised knee. That was kind of the conversation just before the show, so I could get some information. Rock Riley told me. Rock covers the Buccaneers for Pewter Report, and Rock told me that practice today was, you know, a situation where Baker didn't take, basically sat out the practice, and you know that that gave the opportunity to why am I blanking on the kid? Oh, Trask gave the opportunity for Trask to get the snaps there. So from that standpoint, I think it'll be interesting. I Rock told me he thought that Baker would play this week. It's just that he said maybe they just gave him a day off to rest. So we'll have to see. But that's the latest on. Keep your eye on Baker Mayfield and see what's going to happen there tonight. This week from that standpoint. Last
Oh,
night Texas.
Baker.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say Baker's another one where he's had a history of playing through injuries.
Right.
So if it's not something that can physically keep him out of the game, you're right. He's probably going to be in the game
Hmm.
this week.
Well, the other thing too, you'd mentioned yesterday we were talking about quarterbacks and they're back, right? Well, last night uh, in the baseball game, this Max Scherzer got his 3 innings in there, and the Rangers win 3-1 over over the Diamondbacks. It was pretty interesting that it was Max who ended up with the tightness in the back that decided, from him moving on from the fourth inning on. But he just couldn't shake that back issue. And so, to your point yesterday about how it affects the football players, quarterbacks, it certainly does affect the pitchers too. And yesterday, it cut short Max's day for the Rangers.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about the back injuries, how they
Hmm.
can kind of just crop up anytime,
Right.
any little thing can just tweak them.
Hmm.
And actually, going back to what started that, the Jimmy G thing, I don't know if you saw this, but on like on one of the Raiders' first drives, Jimmy goes to run for the first down.
Hmm.
He needs like 10 yards. It was like a 3rd and 10 or something like that. He goes to run for the first down. He has a chance to step out of bounds behind the first down marker. He decides to stay inbounds to try and get it. Not only does he not get the first down, he doesn't even slide. He tries to go head forward, but kind of like curls his body, and he takes a crushing hit right to like his lumbar area of the back. And I'm shocked he didn't come right out of the game right there, because that was a huge hit, and he took it right
Hmm.
on the part of the body that was injured for him.
Yeah, that's amazing. You just got to be careful, and it's like I'm sure the coaches before the game said, "Look, stop, don't, do not go anywhere." Um, Albert Breer, who's a great writer at SI.com, reported the Commanders have calls for trade of their backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Right now, though, he's still with Washington. We'll have to see where Jacoby Brissett might end up. You might think, I mean, given what you're talking about the situation with regards to the Vikings, I would have thought that Jacoby Brissett might have been the fit there. Maybe the asking price for Jacoby Brissett was a little more than the Vikings wanted to pay.
Yeah, and that's probably what kept them from getting Kyler Murray as well, when
Mm-hmm.
settling for Josh Dobbs there. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
got a fat contract that Kyler Murray's got there, but yeah, it's interesting. Jacoby Brissett is definitely he's definitely someone I consider a competent backup quarterback in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. So he's always a guy who's good to see coming in if the starter goes down.
Yeah.
He's one of those where it's, oh, okay, Brissett's the backup, not like, oh, who is coming in for Kirk? Jaron Hall, first year out of BYU. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Thank God he has a 14-point lead.
Yeah. And doesn't have to throw the ball. That's
He
always
did go
good.
3 for 4 though, so
That's a good point.
first little NFL appearance, 75% completion percentage there, a little three for 4 for 23 yards.
Here's some of the guys who did get traded today. Wide receiver Van Jefferson, outside linebacker Randy Gregory, wide receiver Chase Claypool, easy for me to say, cornerback J.C. Jackson, wide receiver McCole Hardman, and safety Kevin Bard, and defensive line Contarius Street, and the aforementioned defensive lineman. I don't know if we mentioned it on the show, but Montez Sweat got traded from D.C. to the Browns. I'm sorry, to the Bears. So there you go. Those are the guys who are off the board right now.
And they're
So
also shopping Chase Young, I see. So maybe he'll go and
yeah,
join Sweat in Chicago there. The nice contender over there at
yeah,
Soldier Field.
uh, yeah. That still baffles me. I just don't understand what. Let me just check real quick on what Chicago gave up for to get Chase to get Montez Sweat. It doesn't tell me right here. It just tells me he's an edge rusher, which I kind of already knew. So there's that. Um, but I don't know. I mean, probably a draft choice, or two. That would be my guess. Normally, you don't see player trades for players at the trade deadline. It's mostly, draft. You're taking a shot at adding to your roster by getting college players by, you know, accumulating draft choices. So we'll see um, how that works out at this particular point in time. So that's what we can tell you on the college football. I'm sorry, on the not the college football, the pro football aspect of what's going on. What I was going to say before I so rudely interrupted myself was tonight, Northern Illinois is at Central Michigan. Maction is back. Buffalo at Toledo. Those are your doubleheader games on ESPNU. Has got Northern Illinois and Central Michigan, while Buffalo goes to the Rubber Bowl in Akron, Ohio to face the. I'm sorry, that would be Akron. Buffalo goes to Toledo to face the Rockets out there. So you got Maction on Tuesday night right here. So a wonderful Halloween night. Courtney Lyle and Hudson Masson is going to be calling the game of Northern Illinois Central Michigan on ESPNU, ESPN on the Deuce at 7:30. It's Clay Matrick and Aaron Murray. So there's your Maction. There's two, by the way. There's two where I got myself confused was tomorrow. Maction is Ball State and Bowling Green, and that's Mike Corey and Rocky Bowman, and then Kent State at Akron. So that's a rivalry game. They aren't that far apart, Kent State and Akron, about maybe 20 miles, maybe less. Kent State and Akron playing at the Rubber Bowl tomorrow. So there's Maction 2 nights in a row, 4 Maction games going on over tonight and tomorrow. And of course, there's always, if you're a World Series fan, baseball fan, then you'll be watching the game 4 of the World Series tonight. We now know that Texas is 9-0 on the road this postseason.
Yeah, everybody was so worried about the Texas Rangers, but we gave that out for free on the show yesterday,
Yep.
along with the beautiful under in the Lions Raiders game, which also cashed that. So yeah, it was a good night for the free plays if you're listening to us. But
Pay
yeah,
attention.
definitely big win for the Rangers. Obviously, I still think they're the better team
Yeah.
of the two, and we'll see what they do tonight. But yeah, I think they have a chance to really take a stranglehold of the series here. Obviously,
What's the book say?
let's check it out. So right now it is a pick'em, and it was pretty much a pick'em yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's both are -110 because we got Andrew Heaney on the mound for the Rangers,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like it's Mantiply for the Diamondbacks.
Mantiply, huh?
Yeah, that's the first time I've literally seen him listed as a starter
Yeah, he's this.
all season.
When I first saw that, and I thought to myself, well, maybe they're going to change that, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. When I first saw it, I thought to myself, okay, is Arizona doing a bullpen game today? Where
It must be, right?
right, where they're going with they don't call them starters anymore. They call them openers. So maybe he's their opener. He goes 2 innings, and then they go, and pair things up a little bit. I didn't see this, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see them do that in any of the series prior to this. I didn't see them go with a bullpen game, but maybe that's where they're going with.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I haven't seen him listed as a starter all year, so this is
Right.
definitely they're reaching into the bag of tricks for this one, Jim. But
Yeah.
maybe it's because Heaney. I get he was a starter for
At one point, yeah.
for the Rangers. Yeah, at one point, but yeah, he's
Yeah.
a guy that's been moved around. He's pitched out of the bullpen.
Right.
He's not great when he goes deep into games, but he is good early. So this might be a bullpen day for the Rangers as well, because even him. I don't think he's gotten a start in the playoffs yet. He's been more of a bullpen guy because he was like a number 4 or 5 guy in the rotation. So yeah, this could be a little bit of bullpen action for both teams today.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking at it and going, what is it? If it's both of them going for the bullpen, which, by the way, you can watch tonight's game on Fox at 8 o'clock, and it should be very interesting from that standpoint. Uh, but yeah, maybe at this point in time they just both teams need to get out there and get rocking because they don't have. Pitchers are pitching. We talked about how it could, it could definitely hurt. The both teams because they're neither one of them have deep pitching staffs. So maybe that's the way to go. It could be. It could be a very interesting situation. Um, Quick note: I had mentioned that that the Commanders sent Montez Sweat to the Bears. They're getting a second round draft pick for him. So there
Okay.
you go. Other quick headlines: Jimmy G accepts blame for the poor performance in the Raiders' loss to the Lions. I don't know that I would go that far. I mean, I think Jimmy G's taken a hit for something that he had something to do with, but not 100% to do with.
I don't know about that, Jim. I think the blame is full on him for this one because if I'm being honest, the Raiders defense played their ass off last
Right.
night.
Yeah.
There was a point to open up the second half where the Lions came down. They're in the red zone. They throw a 75-yard pick six to Marcus Peters. Then
Mm-hmm.
the Lions come right back down. Again they get in the red zone. They fumble the ball on the 2 yard line. And then again, they come down. They finally put the touchdown on the board. They end up winning the game by 12 points. But this was a game. The Lions should have scored 50 points last night,
Mm-hmm.
and not only did the game stay under, but yeah, I think their offense, and I don't even think it was that their offense underperformed. I think the Raiders defense played very well and kept them in that game. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy G just this was a problem we've talked about all year for the Raiders. How even in their wins, they're struggling to score more than 17 points. And I don't know if you saw this, but near the end of the game as well, when the Raiders had a chance to make a comeback, Jimmy G just missed a wide open Devontae Adams by like 2 feet. And
Right.
if he hits him, Adams is gone. That's a touchdown, and all of a sudden it's a 2 point game with like 4 minutes to go.
Pretty amazing. Um, all right. So if you, we'll go there. Give it to him. If he wants to own it, we'll give it to him. James
Respect
Harden.
for owning it too.
Yeah, that's just 100%. James Harden is not in Philadelphia anymore. He grabbed a cheesesteak on the way out of town, and he's going to L.A. where he's going to play for the Clippers. Now, to be honest, in looking at this trade, the Sixers, I don't, the Sixers didn't get much out of this trade. Um, maybe, maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't, I just, I don't, it's hard to even tell you to say. I mean, basically
They
what they
got a
got is
lot
a
of
bunch of
bench
draft
depth,
choices.
a lot of bench depth and draft
Yeah, I
choices.
mean, they didn't really get a starter out of this deal. Now, you know, again, who knows how James Harden's going to fit in with the Clippers? They've got an offense right now that has Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Both of those guys seldom make it through an entire season without getting injured, but so maybe Harden is an insurance policy. But there's a lot of offense with the Clips out there in LA this time, and I'm not so sure that the Sixers came close to even winning in this deal.
Well, they got rid of Harden, so they'd probably consider that a win in itself. But
Right?
yeah, the writing was on the wall here. Obviously, that he
Yeah.
got what he wanted, but also,
Hmm.
I kind of feel bad for him. He tried to, play with the team this
Hmm.
season, despite wanting to leave. And I don't know if you saw this, but they stopped him at the airport. The
Yeah.
security
Yeah.
actually stopped him from getting on the plane, and then they gave
Right.
him an excuse like, "Well, we want you to be ready for our our home opener when we come back from the 2 games, and just
Hmm.
follow our we need to ramp you up or whatever." And it
Hmm.
was just it was a massive joke. So He's out of there now, and I'll tell you what the books think, because if you look at the NBA futures now,
Yeah.
pretty much the 76ers and the Clippers have traded places. The Clippers have the 76ers odds, and the 76ers have the Clippers odds, and yeah, so that was a big. They consider a big downgrade for the 76ers.
Yeah. Well, they got Marcus Morris, who was actually there are two of those guys. Marcus Morris and Robert Covington were second round picks. For the 76ers last season. I'm sorry, for the Clippers last season. I'm sorry. They're now in Philadelphia. They got Nicholas Backstrom, who gives, as you said, I mean, basically he's depth and versatility. They got 22-year-old KJ Martin, who's a 6'6" swing forward, who averages 12.7 points a game and 5 boards a game in 28 minutes last season for the Houston Rockets. And, he was traded and they got him. So we'll see. I mean, they got a couple of draft choices, and maybe that's what they wanted out of it. Maybe they just, as you said, maybe the Sixers wanted bench depth. I don't see that. Honestly, this is one of those things where you just said it, you hit it right on the nail right on the head. The Sixers, the Sixers basically wanted James Harden out of Philadelphia, and and the feeling was mutual. I will say this for both teams, okay? It's best that they did it now. You don't want to do it in the middle of the season, from a trade standpoint. It just doesn't make any sense. It is what it is, but I do think that's going to be a wild situation. So I think that Harden to the Clippers is a good thing for the Clippers. And maybe he'll be happy out there. I mean, he's got, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
This guy is never happy anywhere.
That's a good point.
He's had like four teams in 3 years, and
yeah,
just he's never happy. Jim. He's played with every star in the league almost.
That's a good point. Yeah,
who's he gonna be happy playing with? Find me a player who's. I think he thinks it's Kawhi, obviously out in LA, and maybe he figures if it doesn't work there, I'm in the same building and I can just go ask LeBron if he
right. Walk over to the other dressing room. Yeah. It's not a bad trip, not a long trip to get there. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation. We'll have to see. We did say yesterday, and it's tonight, so tomorrow we'll have a chat about it. Everything is pointing to Ohio State being the prohibitive number one when the CFP rankings come out tonight. We will see, but we do think that despite both Amedeus and I thinking that this is not a good thing, it seems like that's where it's going at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm with Dan Lanning. Give me Oregon and Washington. Let me see your little Ohio State. Okay, let's see how tough you are, Ryan Day, when Oregon shoves you around. They'll even come to the horseshoe and beat you. So let's see it. Come on.
Here's another thing that you and I talked about this the other day, and it's just annoying. Okay, James Madison is they're not the number one team in the country. They're probably not they're in the top 25, so there's something, right? But
aren't they like 25?
Yeah, they are 25.
The pedestal of the like a foot, sorry.
Right, they just kind of sneaked in, but you had mentioned all season long that James Madison's defense has been good and the team is playing well. Because of the situation of them becoming a quality D1 program, despite not being able to play for the title in the conference, they're not eligible to be ranked in the CFP. And I know, look, as we said before, Would they be in the in the top four? No, but not for nothing. It's being ranked in the CFP does help recruiting and does help with your overall picture when it comes to other teams in conferences, and especially for a team like James Madison.
Yeah, I think they're just the perfect example. If you don't believe us when we talk about how the rankings are a joke, because you know we're going to throw Ohio State and
Yeah.
Michigan and Georgia, who really haven't played anybody, or they're going to be your top three teams in the country and get invited no matter what. But you have an actual good quality team
Mhm.
who probably is a top 25 team in the country, but
Mhm.
we gotta punish them. Can't play a bowl game, can't play your own conference championship, can't even be ranked in the college football playoff ranking
Mhm.
system. And why? Because you're new to FBS, because you're in your second ever season, because of what, an NCAA rule, and a dumb rule that every time I flip on, these analytics shows on TSN and stuff like that's all I hear. Everybody says the same phrase.
Mhm.
What a dumb rule! James Madison can't participate in
Right.
anything. It's a joke.
Totally crazy. Wide receiver Roman Wilson, who is playing for Michigan, was asked in a press gathering yesterday about this calm kind of before the storm. We're fully expecting Michigan to get hit with a serious amount of sanctions for what's going on. We don't know, the stealing of signs and how extensive they went into it, but there has been a lot of chat. We talked about it yesterday about whether or not Jim Harbaugh would make it out of this, and it'll be interesting. Here's the quote from Wilson in the press conference. He said, "A bison or a buffalo walking away from a storm." Because he said during a media conference yesterday at Schembecker Hall Monday afternoon, then they show us a picture of the buffalo just chilling in the storm. Because right now that's what we are. We're just buffaloes chilling in the storm because we're not scared of it. You know, we're not running away. We're just standing in the snow and chilling. Okay, interesting metaphor, but we'll take it. Um, they're off to an 8-0 start. They're ranked number 2 nationally. I imagine that somewhere in the mixture of the Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Florida State situation tonight, they're likely to be in there in the rankings. They could actually be right behind Ohio State. They could be number 2 for all we know. But that's where Michigan is at the moment. And, you know, Wilson's, as I said, Wilson's analogy to a buffalo standing in a snowstorm, possibly could be right. Who knows? But it's definitely an interesting way to go on the way to take it from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's definitely one I've never heard of before.
Yeah, that's a new one. Okay, so here's we'll do this quick. Fox has put out their prospected number one through their first CFP poll. They have the Buckeyes at number one. Just for context sake and transparency's sake, we should note that the Ohio State Buckeyes and Big Ten football is on Fox, so just doesn't hurt them to have the number one team in the
Yeah,
country
so how much
on
did
their
Ohio
network.
State pay to be number one on that one?
Yeah. Their number two is the Georgia Bulldogs. Um, okay, they beat my Gators 8-0 now. Um, there are other teams that beat my Gators too, so it's not like it's the first one time it happened. So they said the question. Here is the question, and they said we just talked about Michigan. There's some concern at the CFP that maybe Michigan is going to get hit. Uh, and if Michigan gets hit at the right time, they may, if they rank them high enough, they may just not be there. They might be the the odd team out in this deal from a standpoint of ineligibility. I don't think they're going to be there at the end unless they do what you said yesterday, and that's beat Penn State and then beat Ohio State. So that would get them there, but we'll have to see. I think, you know, Florida State right now is in that 4 spot, and then we've got Oregon and Washington and Oregon. Flip it the other way. So I don't know. I think you gotta look at it and go, hmm. It's going to be an interesting situation, and it's going to be. You and I obviously are on the Oregon Washington bandwagon. Um, I would hate to see. Here's what I would hate to see. I would hate to see one of those two teams. At least one of those two teams not make it to the Final Four, and it's just because of brand name. You know, they got brand name programs. They want the brand name programs to play. I don't understand why in Oregon or Washington, for those of us who follow college football, um, they're two blue blood programs as well. Are they Michigan and Ohio State? No. Are they Georgia? Probably not. But they're not that far behind all four of those teams. So I don't know what to tell you. It's um, it's an interesting situation to be sure.
Yep. That's why it's the good old invitational. It's not even the college football playoffs at this point.
Yeah, it's a college football invitational. We'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I just don't. I don't get it. I mean, we'll see. Here we got a question coming in, and let's see who's with us today. Jerry, how you doing? Uh, the Rangers may have lost some players last night. Have you heard anything about their status for tonight's game? I'm sorry. I haven't heard anything about. I mean, other than Scherzer, than Max having a tight back, but he wasn't going to pitch tonight anyway, so that wasn't concern. I don't think so, Jerry. Have you heard anything, Amadeus, about tonight's game? That I didn't. I just haven't. I'll do a quick check for you, Jerry, while I'm chatting here with you. But I haven't seen anything about the Rangers not being at full force tonight. Otherwise, Amadeus, have you heard anything?
Yeah, definitely haven't heard anything specifically about key players being out. Could definitely do a check here, but yeah, I guess what was it? They lost Garcia, Adolis Garcia.
Yeah.
He's questionable for tonight. I see. So it's one of those things where it's up in the air. He's really the only player. Him and Max Scherzer. It's just Adolis Garcia. So um, unless you
Well,
want to count Brandon Miller, which I think he's been out all.
he's been a while for a while.
Uh,
I'm looking real quick here. No, I don't see anything. Yeah, questionable. I don't know. Bum, 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 bum. Nope. I'm looking at. Oh,
Garcia is the only one.
yeah, and he's not totally ruled out.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a toss up right now, but
well, you had mentioned that it was a toss up from the jump, right?
yeah,
I think Garcia was going to undergo an MRI. Yeah, I mean, um, let me not underplay this, okay, for you, Jerry. But a lot of players go and get an MRI after a game and they don't even mention it, okay? It's just a simple test. We all know, it's an imaging test. And it's just to see, let's say that you tweak, your hamstring, or you tweak your knee, or you foul a ball off your foot or something like that. It's not an uncommon thing for a player to it not be mentioned. They play the game or whatever, and again, after the game, they go and get an MRI just to make sure that whatever happened to them didn't break something that they didn't feel. Because let's use that analogy of fouling a ball off your foot, right? Your foot's got a ton of bones in it, and it's quite possible you could, have, get some hairline fractures there. So I think more often than not, they do the MRI just to make certain that the player didn't do any severe damage to themselves. And so my guess is tonight that, or today, they'll find out what the MRI, if they don't already know what the MRI issue is. I guarantee you this, and Amadeus, you've got a whole lot more experience with this than I, so I'll defer to you. If something were wrong with him, I mean, talking about seriously wrong with him, the books would know about it.
Yeah, 100%. I think even just missing one player like Adolis, like there's so much talent on that team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a player like that makes a huge difference from a book standpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, absolutely, they would know about it. And if it was more serious, it would be kind of like they would put it down right away that
Mm-hmm.
he won't be playing tonight. We'll see if maybe we can get him back later in the series. But this one,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, he's pretty much a game time decision, and you're
Right.
probably not going to find out until they actually release the lineups later,
Right.
and he's in there or not.
But one of the things, and again, you just reiterated, and Jerry, I think this is important to note. Somehow, some way, the books know about injuries. Okay, even before they're announced, they know about them. So
100%. And here's a
yeah.
great example.
Okay.
The Vikings traded for Josh Dobbs today. The
Mm-hmm.
line did not move at all. They already knew Dobbs was going to the Vikings.
So there you go. You can't keep Vegas in the dark. It doesn't happen. They definitely are knowing what you're what you're doing. Today of course is Halloween, and I heard a great story this morning, and that is one of the reporters on NBC had been asked what his son was going to go at as tonight trick or treating, and he said shoeless Joe Jackson, and that's a pretty I know that's a pretty inside baseball, costume. But he said that what he did for him, this is now a 10-year-old kid, is he downloaded the DraftKings app on his phone just so that way, if anybody was concerned about who Joe Jackson was, Shoeless Joe Jackson, he could show him the DraftKings thing, and he realized that he bet on baseball when he was out there. But yeah, it's an interesting costume for tonight's Halloween. But uh, here's a question for you, Amadeus, which is very important, I think. And Jerry, you can weigh in on this as well. What's your favorite Halloween candy, or candy that you would get in Halloween?
My favorite Halloween candy. I'm more of a chocolate guy, so it would
Okay.
definitely be yeah, it would definitely be in the chocolate. And I'm also Canadian, so we have a lot of weird like chocolate and candies that you don't have down in the States. Like
Oh,
for example, our you guys call them Smarties, but they're actually called Rockets up here because
okay.
Smarties are basically up here. Smarties are like an M&M type
Okay.
chocolate, just
Mhm.
just a milk chocolate like with a coating on it.
Mhm.
So I would have to go probably with Halloween. I mean, I'm a Aero bar or even like a Kit Kat guy, which
Mhm.
I know there's Kit Kat in the States, so I'd probably go with one of those for Halloween candy.
It's funny. One of my first directing gigs was college basketball, and the Mars Company was one of our sponsors, and there's Foxy showed up, and we'll get to you in a second, Foxy. Bum, 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 bum. How did the Chiefs lose to the Broncos so bad? Um, we'll get to that in just a second. Let me finish this story. It's not that long. Um, the Mars Company uh, showed up. Well, they didn't show up. Boxes showed up, and on the boxes outside the truck was 7,000 Kit Kat bars that they were giving out to the students to come to the game. And I'm thinking this is the worst possible idea I've ever seen. I mean, these could be projectiles. I mean, these kids, they may want to eat them. They may want to eat half of them and throw the other half at the officials. So I'm thinking this is. So I ended up taking almost 100 of the bars back to home, and became very popular in my neighborhood for it. But yeah, Kit Kat was a good one. I'm personally I like Kit Kat. There's nothing wrong with that. I kind of like Mounds bars or what's the other ones? Snickers, Milky Way, that kind of stuff. So, and I don't mind it when you freeze it. That's always good too. All right. So to
Always a
your
solid choice.
yeah, uh, how the Chiefs lose the Broncos, and I'm gonna say, and I think this is gonna. I'm not gonna speak for Amadeus. The Chiefs aren't that good. I know that sounds weird, but they're not. And I think the problem is that in seasons past, they've had a lot more weapons for Patrick Mahomes to play with, and they don't have those weapons anymore. They've lost a lot of wide receivers. It's really, they can be exposed, I guess would be the best way of putting it. And the fact that the Chargers have underperformed probably is more of a story than the Chiefs not performing. I don't know, but I'm just gonna say that the Chiefs lost the Broncos so bad didn't didn't really surprise me. I thought certainly they could lose to anybody, but I do think that what happened sometimes it's a matchup thing. When things just go wrong, but I think the Chiefs right now are not. They're not the Super Bowl team that we've seen in the past. But they're good enough in that division to win that division, and that unfortunately, at this point in time, you don't have to be that good to win that division.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things with that game. Obviously, there was the look ahead spot to Germany for the Chiefs, and
Sure.
Patrick Mahomes was battling a flu in that game. Was the excuse that came out afterwards? Personally, I had a little sprinkle on the Broncos money line because I kind of knew they're going to beat the Chiefs. I knew the Chiefs were going to drop one more game before they go to Germany because now they have a gauntlet, and they're probably gonna win a good majority of the games. But yeah, I think you really hit it on the head there with the Chiefs. We've been talking about it all season. This is not the same team that won the Super Bowl last year. They're not a bad team. They have a very good defense. Actually, surprisingly, that's the thing that's
Mm-hmm.
beating them in games. But we've talked a lot about how they've had offensive problems, and people didn't want to acknowledge there was a problem with the Chiefs' offense until they finally saw them lose to the Broncos last week. But this is something we've seen for weeks. We've talked about how this is pretty much a retooling year. There's a reason why they went out and grabbed Mecole Hardman again, a guy they let go in the offseason. They're realizing that they don't have the wide receivers to compete for a Super Bowl this year. And really, one thing you got to learn about the NFL, Foxy, is records are very deceiving. At the end of the day, these are all professional athletes. They're in the NFL for a reason. No team is as good as their record, and no team is as bad as their record.
By the way, I spelled peanut wrong. Sorry about that, Jerry. I was not paying attention. I like M&Ms. And Jerry said that he likes M&Ms and the small bag M&Ms, and I do too. But I'm a peanut M&M fan from that standpoint. Yeah, no, you're right about that. I think if we learned that, the Jaguars taught us that last year. There have been a number of teams. The Lions taught us that last year. Okay, from a standpoint of being better than what their record reflected, and in the past couple of years, we've seen it from the Cincinnati Bengals, where they've had a horrific first start to the season, and then they come on strong. So, yeah, you're right about it. And also, why we don't see really a dominant team this season is just to Amadeus's point. If you look at the skills positions, right, there's a lot of skilled guys hurt. We talked about yesterday about Debo, in San Francisco, and how they've kind of fallen on hard times for them because of his absence. When they're either going to get him back or they're going to make a trade before the end of the day. That you know that we'll see. He had a nice win with Copa okay, Super America outright champions. Um, El Dio Quinto plus 5,000.
Yeah, he grabbed him at the beginning of the competition. He was on Independiente del Valle last year.
Uh huh.
He's good at picking out these
Obscure
small.
teams, huh?
Well, it's not really obscure. They're dominant in the leagues they play in, right? Because
Right.
Foxy
Yeah.
lives down there in South America, so he's good at picking out the dominant team from the
Mm-hmm.
smaller leagues, like the Ecuadors, the Chiles, and seeing which ones can actually stand the test of times in the
Mm-hmm.
competition. And sure enough, there you go. He's cashing that one. And Fluminense is a big minus 200 favorite in the Copa Libertadores final this Saturday. So
Mm-hmm.
100%, he's got a good chance of cashing that one too.
Wow. Good on you, Foxy. You can take us out to lunch. That'll be a good one. So, all right. Mr. Amadeus, what are we looking for tonight? And remember that you can get his all of his picks and all the information down in the show box below. But let's let the man speak.
Yeah, go check out my premium plays at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. As Jim said, you can find the links in the description below. Definitely, if you're struggling in NFL, go get my picks because I am 36-22 this season alone. And yeah, the only play I got up for tonight is college football, some action, some midweek action. You can also get my college football for the rest of the week games up to Friday. I might add more, but yeah, there'll be plenty more of NFL, college, and soccer coming for the weekend as well, and as well as NBA.
So a full slot of action going on there. So and Foxy has something else for us. Did you hear about the Ice Sox? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard enough of that from my girlfriend. I don't want to really hear any more about it.
Yeah, it's very sad. The Penguins did do something very nice last night. If I'm not mistaken, and we're talking years ago now, I believe, and I can't remember, he was quite a famous goalkeeper, goaltender in hockey. Got one of the players got knocked down, and it just he got his throat cut with a skate. And fortunately for him, they were lucky to have enough, folks on hand that they could save him, and he actually he didn't come back to play, but he certainly survived it, and it's a wonder more players don't get hurt in that kind of way because those skates for hockey players are very very sharp.
Yeah,
Actually, to be honest,
definitely.
they're sharp in just about every sport when it comes to ice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's we're lucky that more people don't get hurt like that, and it was a very sad accident. So hopefully we won't see any more of those types of accidents, and our hearts and prayers go out to the family. So there you go. It's kind of a sad situation to end on, but it is how things go. You play professional sports, and sometimes crazy things happen and accidents happen. So let's hope that nobody else falls into that situation. So anyway, so again, all the information that on Amadeus' picks are in the show box below, and I'm sure we'll be picking up here by the end of the week. We could be seeing James Harden in a Clipper uniform, and he may be on Amadeus's radar when he hits Los Angeles. We'll see. But the much traveled Mr. Harden is headed to Los Angeles. He's been around the league, so literally, and we'll see how he works out. in the Clippers. You're right though about that one point. I won't drag it on much, but being in the same building with LeBron James might just be one of the freakish situations that happen. You know, these guys talk to each other. You know, maybe he strolls over to watch practice with the the Lakers. I don't know, but let's just put it this way: the Lakers are not the Showtime Lakers of the good old days. They are they're a basically a mercenary group at this point in time. So we'll see. It's funny because for so many years the Lakers and the Celtics were a core group of the same players year in and year out, and they would add maybe one or two guys, and not necessarily stars. They would add sometimes they would add guys to the roster who had been stars, but like a Bill Walton, for instance, being added to to the Celtics at the end of his career, and so those kind of things happen. But nowadays, I mean, if you're a Lakers fan, you're just the only name that you know is going to be there at least for a while is LeBron, and who else is on that team, you never know. And I think that's probably, to me, as a longtime NBA fan, it makes me sad, because if you look at you know the Magic show for so many years, that was the role, and Magic Johnson played that role, and then it was Kobe, and Kobe was there for a long time, and now you just don't know who's going to show up on that team. So anyway, that is what are you going to do? That's the way the game's played these days. So we go from there. Anyway, my friends, we will be getting out of here today. Remember again, one last time, we got Amedeus stuff in the show box below. Hit it up. You're gonna like us for it, because everybody likes to win. All right, and Amadeus will show you how. Okay. All right, gang. Everybody have a nice day. For Jim and Amadeus, have a good day. Bye bye.